Veterinarian Jason encountered an unusual man. The man brought a peculiar dog with him, and just like the last time, his eyes were red as he repeatedly urged Jason, "Doctor, you must save him." Having run a pet hospital for many years, Jason had seen many women and children crying for their dogs, but a middle-aged man with red eyes due to a dog sneezing was indeed a rare sight. The man asked, "Dr. Jason, is canine distemper hard to cure?" Jason was a bit annoyed. "Who told you it's canine distemper? It's just a cold. The pet hospital downstairs in my neighborhood said it, and they mentioned a daily fee of over $600. Humph. Jason scoffed and directly scolded, "Are they treating the dog or robbing you? Would you still go to such a place?" The man wasn't upset. Upon hearing that it wasn't canine distemper, he became excited, grinning and rubbing his hands. Jason prescribed 3 days of injections. Knowing the man lived far away, he suggested leaving the dog and picking it up after it recovered. However, the man insisted on daily drop-offs and pickups. As a result, with frequent encounters, the two men started chatting, and some stories began to unfold. The man's name is Luke. Luke considers himself the luckiest person in his life for being classmates with Emma in high school and the happiest for marrying her right after graduation. Their love has been enduring, and Luke believes they are a perfect match. Emma possesses everything admirable: fair skin, clear eyes, and a graceful demeanor reminiscent of Gardenia's, that captivates Luke, making him want to cherish her for a lifetime. If he were to point out a flaw, Luke thinks Emma is too ambitious. Emma has been a top student since childhood. After graduating from a prestigious university, armed with a stack of certificates for outstanding graduates and party members, she managed to secure a position at a local university, although without a master's degree. Due to this, she was assigned to the library, handling literature consultation. It's a leisurely job that doesn't hinder career advancement, and the pay is decent, which satisfies Luke. However, Emma always feels inferior. While others in the school have their job titles listed as teachers, hers is listed as educational support staff. What does that mean? It means assisting others, but never standing on the podium herself. Seeing her discontent, Luke comforts her, "Wife, look, many of your colleagues in the library have extraordinary backgrounds, right? It means you have a cushy job. Without connections, ordinary people wouldn't get in." Unfortunately, Luke's consolation didn't hit the mark. The more he spoke, the more upset Emma became. Unwilling to accept her situation, Emma decided to prepare for the postgraduate entrance examination. In the age of the internet, there are few visitors to the library, making work leisurely. During idle times, the elder sisters from various bookshelves would start chatting, discussing clothes and gossiping. Emma, however, never participated in any of these conversations. Instead, she would quietly study in a corner, becoming an anomaly in the library. At home, Luke regards his wife as the top priority. He not only takes care of all the household chores but also takes voluntary contraceptive measures, ensuring that family planning doesn't hinder Emma's pursuit of her dreams. Emma, with her high aspirations, applied to the top-ranked school in Beijing for her master's degree. Unfortunately, with a difference of only 2 points, she was transferred to a university in the Northwest. Luke is content with this, saying, "Wife, as long as you're pursuing higher education, it's enough. After all, everyone who comes out has a master's degree." But Emma's pride won't allow it. She prepared for the entrance exam, enduring the disdainful glances from some colleagues in the office. Even if she couldn't go to Beijing or Shanghai, she could go to a second-tier city like Qingdao or Tianjin. But now, she's been sent to the middle of nowhere in the Northwest, a journey that is more of a joke than pursuing further studies. So, she had to embark on the second battle. During the second battle, Emma lowered her standards a bit but still applied to universities in Beijing. This time, she finally succeeded. Luke was ecstatic, telling everyone he met, "My wife is going to pursue her master's degree in Beijing." Luke's parents were a bit worried and whispered to Luke privately, "By the time Emma finishes her studies, she'll be almost 30. Won't it delay having children?" Luke, accustomed to being an elementary school teacher, had a smooth tongue. "Mom and Dad, it's a different era now. Emma wants to pursue her dreams, and I fully support her. Besides, when she comes back with a higher salary, our lives will be better, right?" Luke's parents shook their heads, saying, "You simpleton, be careful she becomes a phoenix and no longer looks at you, this country bumpkin." Luke just laughed foolishly, saying, "Emma is ambitious, but she's not heartless. Besides, she's not stupid. Without me, where would she find in-laws as understanding and reasonable as you two? Luke's parents, simple farmers who only knew how to cultivate the land, were convinced by their son's few words but felt a fire burning inside them, unable to express their feelings. They could only go along with it. 3 years later, Emma, who returned after completing her master's degree, successfully transferred to the department and became a bona fide university lecturer. Now, in Luke's cherished view of his wife, who he had been separated from for 3 years during her postgraduate studies, there was an added layer of admiration. By this time, they had been married for 5 years, enduring the challenges of a long-distance relationship during Emma's 3 years of pursuing her master's degree. Upon Emma's return, Luke was eagerly anticipating the possibility of welcoming a chubby little one into their lives. However, Emma found herself facing new concerns. Since the year she entered postgraduate studies, their school had raised its recruitment standards. Newly recruited faculty members were either PhD holders or returnees from studying abroad. Emma felt immense pressure. As a teacher, she not only had to lecture but also engage in research. Wanting to publish papers and pursue professional titles, she found that lacking a PhD made things challenging. When Emma expressed her desire to pursue a PhD, Luke, for the first time in his life, opposed the idea. His objection wasn't rooted in a mindset of male dominance or an inability to see his wife surpassing him. Instead, Luke believed that Emma's mindset was problematic. He initially thought that once Emma transitioned to a teaching position, her mood would naturally improve. However, since becoming a lecturer, she furrowed her brows every day. Various academic meetings, thesis guidance, teaching practices, all these responsibilities weighed her down. Coupled with her strong-willed nature, she was 10 times more exhausted than others, making staying up late, working overtime, insomnia, and hair loss the norm. Luke watched, pained in his heart. As work pressure increased, Emma's temper grew shorter. Luke, not daring to openly oppose, could only indirectly offer hints. Wife, as long as we have enough money, professional titles aren't that important. Wife, today I chipped in 200 yuan for teacher Wang's favor. She just had her second child, a chubby little girl, so delightful. Wife, I heard earning a PhD is quite challenging. I don't want you to be so tired. Frustrated by these remarks, Emma snapped at him, unleashing the accumulated pressure like a flamethrower. Sounds nice. Without a professional title, how can I get a salary raise? Want a second child? We'd have to buy a bigger house. With your salary, how long will it take? Difficult, so give up trying? I think your lack of success in your career is due to this lax attitude. In terms of logic and eloquence, a primary school teacher can't compete with a university lecturer. Within 2 months, Luke conceded defeat. Surrendered and disarmed, Luke had to switch roles and began wholeheartedly supporting Emma's pursuit of a PhD. At this point, Luke accepted his reality. He thought, from now on, he might as well focus on being supportive and prioritize Emma's advancement. A man, if he doesn't cherish his own woman, who else can he expect to cherish her? This was the most frequently repeated complaint Luke shared with veterinarian Jason when discussing his own affairs. In the first year of pursuing her PhD, Luke could still visit Emma during holidays. However, starting from the second year, Emma's vacations were occupied by research papers and various tasks assigned by her advisor. By the end of the third year, after numerous sleepless and anxious nights, Emma finally produced 2 SCI papers, leaving only one more to meet the graduation requirement. Relieved, Emma began frequently calling Luke. Luke, pleasantly surprised, thought that Emma's renewed attention indicated a rekindling of the flames of their love after a brief separation. Upon arrival, he realized that Emma was treating him as a stud. Emma would summon him precisely during her ovulation period. Many times, he would take the high-speed train to Beijing on Friday nights and rush back overnight on Sunday. On Saturday night and Sunday daytime, Emma demanded him to contribute at least twice to the public fund. Each time he returned, his legs felt like jelly. As a determined woman, Emma had a strict life plan. She aimed to have her first child before turning 35. This year, Emma turned 34. Luke had some subtle concerns, but eagerly hoping for a child, he did his best to cooperate with Emma. Without experiencing any joy in the process of conceiving, the child arrived in the midst of chaotic exhaustion. In the later stages of pregnancy, Emma was still busy with papers and various graduation procedures. Luke, located in another city, couldn't be of much help and could only be anxious from a distance. Fortunately, Emma, fully utilizing her determined nature, miraculously managed to successfully defend her doctoral thesis on time and gave birth to a baby girl as she wished. In the eyes of outsiders, Emma at this moment seemed to be a winner in life. However, what others saw was just a picturesque scene after being beautified. The true feelings could only be truly understood by those living in it. Once the child was born, Luke's mother took the initiative to take care of the baby. Essentially, aside from breastfeeding, Emma didn't have to worry about anything else. But life remained hectic. With a PhD, Emma had to engage in research, lead a team, attend classes during the day, and feed the baby at night. There wasn't a day where she didn't have panda eyes. Luke always advised her not to push herself too hard, but Emma felt that her husband simply didn't understand her. When she was a master's student, she could manage her work casually. But now that she was a PhD, leaders and colleagues had extra expectations of her. Many important tasks were assigned to her, and under these circumstances, how could she handle them casually? After going through numerous challenges, she finally became a mother at the age of 35. Did she not yearn to hold that tender and fragrant little bundle of joy more, and enjoy the happiness of being a mother? Honestly, when she was pinned to the computer unable to spare a moment, and glimpsed Luke changing diapers and taking care of the baby, she envied him so much. But where did she have the time? Countless times, rushing back and forth in the neighborhood, seeing other women happily strolling their babies, enjoying the sun, and flying kites with their children, she couldn't deny that deep down, she regretted it a little. However, there was no turning back. Exchanging more than a decade of youth and loneliness for a PhD was, invisibly, a form of pressure. She had to perform better than everyone else just to avoid being ridiculed. The belated child is always particularly cherished. The motherly love Emma couldn't provide was compensated by Luke's parents. Even before granddaughter Cora reached a month old, the toys bought by the elderly couple already filled the entire balcony. Emma casually mentioned that the child should eat more fish. Luke's mother would then stew fish for her granddaughter 3 times a week. When the fish was ready, the old lady would always pick the tenderest and best piece of fish, place it in a small bowl, put on reading glasses, lean over the table, and meticulously remove the fish bones with 2 chopsticks. For those unaware, it seemed like she was conducting a biochemical experiment. Cora was indeed an adorable child. She rarely cried and had not wet the bed since she turned 2. Countless quiet nights, after Emma's busy day, she would lie close to her daughter. Under the warm yellow light, gazing at the gentle fluttering of the child's eyelashes, the angelic sleeping face, Emma would feel a serene sense of happiness in her heart. This happiness drove her to work even harder. She wanted to achieve more while her mother-in-law was still healthy and the child was young. Emma aimed to produce more results, quickly become a professor, so that when the child truly understood things, she could have more time to accompany her. In the blink of an eye, Cora turned 3. Emma finally became an associate professor. Everything seemed to be gradually falling into place, but Emma increasingly felt that Cora's personality was becoming too introverted. She didn't like to talk, and when conversing with others, she never dared to make direct eye contact. Even more surprising, it seemed like she couldn't even say "Mom." In the past, whenever Luke and Emma expressed concerns, the grandparents would use comforting words like, "Cora has fair skin, a tall stature, plays with building blocks well, and paints beautifully. Haven't seen such a clever child. Don't worry too much." With both Luke and Emma busy with work, the words of the elderly eased their concerns. But Cora was about to start kindergarten, and her reserved nature remained unchanged. Emma, who was occupied with papers and research projects all day, couldn't stay calm. She and Luke took Cora directly to the best tertiary hospital. After a series of examinations including CT scans, MRI, and hearing tests, when they heard the doctor utter the words autism, Emma felt her legs go weak. Thankfully, Luke reacted quickly and caught her. Emma's emotions were out of control. "How is it possible? There's no genetic factor for autism in our family." Out of sympathy for them, the female doctor in her 50s patiently explained, "There might not be a genetic factor, but it could be due to environmental factors. Advanced maternal age, excessive stress during pregnancy, viral infections, and distant parent-child relationships could all be contributing factors. At this stage, what you need to do is start rehabilitation treatment as soon as possible. During this period, the child especially needs the company of parents. Advanced maternal age, excessive stress, distant parent-child relationships. The words the doctor spoke felt like sharp knives, cutting into Emma's heart one by one. She slumped against Luke, feeling like all the strength in her body had been drained away. Her world had completely collapsed. Emma handed over all her current projects. At this point, she was just a step away from obtaining the full professorship. Except for teaching, she declined all other responsibilities, dedicating all her time to accompany Cora. In the past, she was always anxious, living each day like a battle. She rarely went shopping, never indulged in beauty treatments, didn't know popular celebrities, and never followed entertainment programs. The meaning of life for her was simply the struggle, and she didn't understand what it meant to enjoy life. She also detested her strong-willed nature, but the childhood shadow, like an unresolved curse, kept her confined. She was a child who emerged from the staff residential compound. In her childhood, her father, a quick thinker, renovated their own building and opened the first supermarket in the compound. In the 90s, supermarkets were still a novelty. Soon, they became one of the first families with a net worth of $1,000,000 yuan. She also became the envy of everyone in the compound. But later, her father was misled, got addicted to stock trading, and even took out high-interest loans. When the stock market turned unfavorable, the high-interest loans came knocking, and all their household appliances were taken away. In a cold winter night, her father climbed to the top of the tallest building in the city, leaving no farewell, and jumped. Her mother, alone with her, faced countless disdainful glances. Former relatives and friends avoided them like they were a plague. Since then, the idea of fighting for dignity became like a dagger plunged into her heart. In the 3 years of high school, she maintained top 3 grades and her myopia quickly reached 900 degrees. She was genuinely putting her life on the line. For a poor girl with no way out, wanting to live with some dignity, besides risking her life, did she have any other choice? She also truly tasted the sweetness of striving. She successfully entered college, pursued a master's and a doctorate, and became a professor. Giving it her all had long become like a belief, blending into her blood and penetrating her marrow. But now, with Cora falling ill, fate once again dealt her a harsh blow. In the infinite darkness, fate left her only a glimmer of hope. That sole ray of light was Luke. Without Luke, Emma didn't know how she could endure. The peculiar illness of her child, the mockery of others, an unseen future, plunged Emma's heart into an endless sea of bitterness. Those achievements that once made people envious had now become her burdens. The gossip of onlookers never ceased. That woman is too strong-willed, pursuing a PhD while pregnant. I heard she only breastfed her child for 6 months, how ruthless. Even became a professor, but her child doesn't even call her mom. For parents of an ailing child, beyond the rehabilitation treatment itself, the more challenging part is alleviating the psychological pressure of being a parent. To lift Emma's spirits, Luke took her to join the local spontaneous organization for families of autistic children called Home of Stars. In the Home of Stars, parents of affected children regularly gathered to share their rehabilitation experiences and encourage each other. Through this, they also listened to the stories of many families with autistic children. There was a young woman of 26, raising her 4-year-old son alone, as the child's father left soon after the diagnosis. Another woman, whose child had not shown much improvement after 2 years of treatment, faced divorce as her husband lost patience and quickly formed a new family, leaving her alone to struggle with her child. This woman, when telling her story, had a look of both sadness and stubbornness in her eyes. Towards the end, her voice choked. Fate bestows setbacks upon us but also gives us strength. I'm grateful for my son because every bit of progress he makes brings me the joy of life. I thank my son because he showed me that I can have such strength. Perhaps, in this life, my son won't be as clever and lively as other children, but as long as he's alive, I won't give up hope. Thank heaven for giving us a unique mother-son bond. For me, every day spent with my son is incredibly precious. At the end, tears welled up in the woman's eyes, but she still managed to force a smile. That smile, etched in Emma's mind, was like a masterpiece, both fragile and resilient, breathtakingly beautiful. Her soul seemed to have undergone some profound purification. A surge of indescribable impulse rose in Emma's chest, and she couldn't help but fall into tears in Luke's embrace. Luke, I'm sorry. Why apologize? It's not your fault, Luke gently stroked her hair. In my heart, Cora will always be our most adorable daughter. She's just unique compared to other children, but not inferior. Emma trembled in Luke's arms as tears poured down. Those were tears of guilt. She was ashamed to confess to Luke that she had secretly blamed him more than once. She had even genuinely envied her female colleagues who married PhD holders, admiring how they could easily achieve professional titles when their husbands were doing research, while she had to rely on herself for everything. Desire had blinded her. If it weren't for the disaster that struck, she probably wouldn't have realized, all along, it was Luke, this not particularly burly man, this man she once loved and gradually developed a sense of disdain for, silently standing behind her, embracing and supporting her. Just like the mother said, at that moment, Emma also genuinely thanked adversity. Adversity allowed her to rediscover her lost heart, made her comprehend that there was no need to be overly demanding. She had already possessed the most precious emotions in the world. Speaking of which, we have to thank Toby. Since she came, the two ladies in the house, big and small, have had more smiles on their faces. Toby is the sick shoo-shoo dog. Luke told Jason that the first time he saw Toby was on the road near the market. That day, he was buying groceries with Cora and encountered an old man selling dogs by the roadside. The old man set up a cardboard box on the curb, and a small white dog resembling a snowball was curled up inside. The little white dog wore a red vest and made cute noises. Cora glanced at it and refused to move. Couldn't be budged. Luke's heart moved, and he crouched down, asking, "Cora, do you want a puppy?" Cora stared at the little dog, eyes blinking. After a while, he heard his daughter's voice, "Dog, doggy." Luke joyfully hugged his daughter, his eyes warming. Expressing thoughts in words might seem like the most ordinary thing to others, but for a child with autism, every newly spoken sentence signifies a turning point in rehabilitation. That's how Toby became part of the family. Toby loved sticking to Cora, following her wherever she went. It would even jump up and snatch food from Cora's hand, but Cora rarely got angry with it. Sometimes, she would even be amused by it. When taking Toby out, Cora's favorite game was standing at a distance, shouting, "Toby." Then watching Toby rush towards her like an arrow, diving into her arms. Cora would scream excitedly. Luke got lost in his storytelling. Don't underestimate a dog, you don't know. During the toughest times, Emma contemplated suicide. Many sleepless nights, she would hide in my arms, crying, saying that when we were too old to take care of Cora, we should commit suicide together. She wanted to cook a meal of Cora's favorite dishes, and then, the three of us lie together, turning on the gas stove. Luke's eyes were a bit moist, unexpectedly. It's a little silly dog that gave Emma and me renewed confidence. Our daughter doesn't always live in her own world. Toby is the gentle guide through which she perceives this world. When Luke's story reached this point, Jason finally understood why this big man was so concerned about a dog. Jason was straightforward and asked Luke directly, "Have you ever blamed your wife?" Luke grinned, "They all call you Jason. I reckon you're only around 30. When you marry a wife, you'll understand. As a man, when you encounter a woman willing to endure hardships with you, you have to cherish her." Luke took the cigarette Jason handed him and lit it. He took a deep drag, squinting as if thoroughly enjoying the bitter fragrance of that puff of smoke. Luke told Jason that he had never blamed Emma. If anyone was to blame, it was himself. We both come from humble backgrounds, and I can understand her particularly well. We had to rely on ourselves for everything, fighting for a house, a car, and the little respect from others. Oh, I forgot to tell you, my wife is exceptionally beautiful. Luke took out his phone, displaying Emma's photo for Jason. It was a picture of Emma during her university days. She wore a white dress, standing by the spring river under the willows, slender figure, long hair flowing, with a serene smile. Luke exhaled a puff of smoke, bitter smiling. Back then, if she had found someone with better prospects, she wouldn't have forced herself into this situation. For a long time, Luke distinctly felt that Emma looked down on him a bit. He even worried that maybe one day, when he pushed open the door and returned home, he would find Emma, who was tired of everything, had already left with Cora without saying goodbye. In Emma's constant complaints, he had relived this nightmare countless times. To salvage their relationship, he had made many futile attempts. But who could have imagined that a sudden illness would bring their hearts back together? Those days of mutual support were both bitter and comforting. The look Emma gave him had reverted to the soft dependence of her youth. Before, Emma always had trouble sleeping. Now, she had more moments of falling asleep. Her daughter's illness made her calmly unload all the work-related burdens. And Luke's heart also became more at ease. They spent a lot of time with their child, creating art together, making paper cuts, going on spring outings, flying kites by the lake. Life became simple and beautiful. Approaching 40, Emma finally felt the joy of enjoying life, all thanks to this turning point. In reality, nothing had changed. They just desired less. Fame, fortune, others' opinions, in front of their daughter's health, none of it mattered. Life was left with one expectation: as long as Cora gets better day by day, joy would sprout, stubbornly grow, and flourish like a tender bud in the depths of their hearts. Jason made a promise to Luke, claiming to cure Toby's illness in 3 days. Sure enough, on the 3rd day when Luke came to pick them up, the little fellow was already lively and energetic. Luke came with Cora. Jason, fortunate to meet the story's little princess, couldn't help but glance a few more times. The little girl was dressed in a soft white cotton outfit, her long and silky black hair casually flowing. With very long eyelashes, her large, shiny eyes exuded a serene temperament, resembling Emma's youthful appearance in the photo. As soon as Cora entered the store, she went straight to Toby. She picked up the dog, her fair face pressed against its furry body, rubbing affectionately back and forth. Observing this, Jason saw a gentle smile at the corner of the child's mouth. In that moment, an image of a soft and faintly fragrant gardenia flower flashed in Jason's mind. Before leaving, Luke took Cora's hand and said, "Cora, Uncle has cured Toby's illness. Do you want to thank Uncle?" Cora pursed her lips, shyly. Her gaze swept across Jason, quickly bouncing away. Jason's heart inexplicably ached. He crouched down, patting Cora's head, and said, "Little princess, in the future, if Toby gets sick again, come find Uncle. No matter how challenging the illness, Uncle will find a way." Cora's dark, bright eyes quickly scanned his face again. As the child's foot stepped out of the shop's door, she suddenly turned back. With a soft and crisp childish voice, she said, "Thank you." Jason was stunned for a few seconds before reacting. He waved vigorously and replied loudly, "No need to thank, little princess." Watching the figures of the big and small gradually recede, Jason felt a warmth rising from the depths of his heart, like bubbling hot spring water, melting all his internal organs. Jason didn't expect that. Just over a month later, Luke would come back with the dog again. Toby was sick again. After a simple inquiry about the symptoms, Jason speculated that it was probably parvovirus. Sure enough, a test strip confirmed the diagnosis. People who raise dogs have heard of parvovirus, a deadly form of gastroenteritis that is challenging to treat. Luke was full of self-blame. "The day before yesterday, I took Toby to the pet store for a bath, grooming, and, following the owner's suggestion, a rabies shot. Unexpectedly, after returning home, it stopped eating and drinking, started vomiting, and had diarrhea." As someone in the pet industry, Jason particularly despised unscrupulous dog dealers and incompetent veterinarians who endangered the lives of animals for profit. Listening to Luke, he couldn't help but angrily curse, "What kind of nonsense store is this? For the sake of money, they lack morality. How can you do grooming and vaccination together for such a small dog? Shaving its fur so clean in the freezing weather, it's asking for trouble." Jason prepared to administer an intravenous drip to the dog, handling equipment and medications. Wherever Jason went, Luke followed. He kept talking to Jason, reporting the situation at home. "You don't know, when the dog gets sick, Cora gets anxious, crying and screaming. This morning, after much persuasion, I explained that I was bringing the dog to you, only then did she let me go out. On the way, the child's mother called me, saying Cora locked herself in the bedroom, spinning in circles, not responding no matter how she called." He was almost in tears. "Originally, we got the dog to help Cora recover, but now, seeing that the dog is in trouble, Cora seems even worse than before. Maybe I shouldn't have brought the dog home." While Luke was rambling, Jason had already administered the injection to Toby. He patted Luke's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, we can cure him." This time, Jason insisted that Luke leave the dog in the store until it was completely healed before taking it back home. The dog's weak body wouldn't benefit from the bumpy journey back and forth. Knowing that Luke was worried, Jason assured him, "You can rest assured. I'll spend extra time with him in the evening, talk to him. If you're still not at ease, you can come see him at night." True to his word, Jason not only treated the dog but also did it for the little girl with big eyes. Luke came to see Toby every day as promised. So, the two men had the opportunity to smoke and chat together again. On the third day of treatment, Toby started to have bloody stools. Deep red blood, puddle after puddle, like tomato sauce, emitted a rotten stench. Luke watched with trepidation, and Jason calmly said, "This is intestinal inversion. We have to pull out the rotten skin of the intestines to slowly recover." On the fourth day, Toby began to vomit blood. Jason said, "Don't worry, it's a necessary process. Get through it, and he'll be fine." In fact, he also felt a bit uncertain. It wasn't that he didn't trust his skills, but the thought of how difficult it was for Cora to open up made his heart heavy. Toby must not have any mishaps. It wasn't just a little life, it was also the hope of Cora's recovery. Luke said he didn't dare to bring Cora, fearing she would cry if she came. But in the evening, Cora still came. She was restless at home, even broke a vase. Emma had to take a taxi to bring her over. Toby was lying on the operating table with its ankles hooked to a nutrient needle, unable to eat or drink. It quickly went from a meatball to a skeleton. But as soon as Cora appeared, its dim eyes suddenly lit up, and it swayed to stand up. Cora ran over, pressing her face against the dog's face, closing her eyes, tears streaming down. Toby stood for a while. Its hind legs trembled and couldn't support it, so it had to half kneel, using its two front legs to support itself, tilting its head to lick away the tears on Cora's cheek. The scene made the three adults tear up. Jason walked to Cora's side, crouched down, and said gently, "Cora, don't worry. Toby will get better." Cora sobbed loudly, her mouth wide open. After a while, she wiped away her tears, turned her face, and looked at Jason with her bright black eyes. Her voice was small but incredibly clear, "Uncle, save Toby." This was the first complete sentence spoken by her, with an urgent expectation. Standing nearby, Emma suddenly covered her mouth and cried out, a mix of joy and pain. Jason patted Cora's head, nodded firmly. Perhaps there is truly a magical connection between dogs and their owners. The morning after Cora's visit, Toby began to show signs of appetite. Jason tried feeding it half a yolk, divided into 3 portions. He also gave it a little clear water. Until the afternoon, it didn't vomit. In the evening, he fed it another half of a yolk. By the 6th day, Toby could eat and drink, and its spirits were restored. Jason finally breathed a sigh of relief. On the day they came to pick up Toby, Luke came with Emma and Cora. Jason happily greeted them, repeating the words he had said to Luke countless times, "Remember, from now on, Toby is my responsibility. Come to me for appointments." Emma took out a painting from her bag, and when she handed it to Jason, she smiled shyly. Jason felt that the smile at the corner of her mouth was truly like a blooming gardenia, faintly opening yet not losing its tenacity. "This is painted by Cora, and she insisted on giving it to you." Jason unfolded the painting, revealing a family of 3 and a little dog. They held hands, and the dog had large wings fluttering on its back, leading the child and the parents to fly towards the starry sky. The deep blue sky was adorned with golden stars, beautiful and enchanting. Jason felt a warmth in his eyes. In that instant, Luke's words echoed in his mind, "In my eyes, our daughter is unique, but she's not any less than anyone else." Jason decided that he would carefully frame this painting and hang it in the center of the shop's wall. If customers asked about it, he would gladly share the story behind it. This story was not just about a little dog and a family of 3, it was about love, life, courage, and hope.